Hello everyone and welcome to ZP Productions. I'm Richard and today we'll be reviewing this item here. This is the Marumi Magnetic Slim Movie Kit. And in this kit there are some ND filters. They are magnetic in nature and they are actually really useful to you if you do any form of videography or is a hybrid photographer, videographer kind of I would say as interest or job. So let's take a look at what's inside this box. Why is it so nice to use magnetic filters? And then we'll talk a little bit on the optical quality of the glass. Finally, a little bit comparison with a variable ND I have. Now, before I start, I thank CLES Distribution for providing me this copy to review here. And they were very helpful and I had a blast using it. So let's continue on with the review itself. So what's inside this box? First, you have a pouch that can actually hold all the filters inside here. Very nice, neat pouch. And then you have a ring that you can actually mount onto your camera, like say the lens itself. And then that is where you actually can attach all the magnetic filters after that. Then you have a cover here. This is a cover, a magnetic cover, and this is meant to be used, for example, on the ring or in front of all the filters themselves. Now, what you see on my hand here is actually a stack of filters, and these are all the different stops of it. Within this kit itself, there are 4 different stops, and they are all marked. Let me show you a close-up here. They are all marked 1 to 4 stops, so you do know which filter you are using. And this marking actually appears every quarter of the ring, so you don't worry about not finding what filter strength you are using now. Now, in terms of the strength itself, let me show you. This is 1 stop. You can see here. You can see it's quite transparent. Then it gets darker at 2 stops. Then you have 3 stops. And then finally 4 stops. So you have a total of 4 stops of ND from 1 to 4, but you can actually achieve 0 to 7 if you ask me, because the ring here with no ND is actually 0. Well, the highest, if you ask me in a very logical sense, is 7, where you mount it 3 and 4 together as such. Let me show you again. This is 3 and 4. This is 7. So if you ask me, essentially this is a set that goes from 0 all the way to 7 stop of filtration reduction, in terms of lighting, so that you can actually shoot in most conditions. In fact, 7 stops will be enough for you if you're shooting even at f1.4, which is usually what I use. 7 stops for 1.4 in around 10 AM sunlight. So I think, let me show you some photos and footage that I shot using this filter here. So overall, they are actually quite pleasing if you ask me. I don't notice any significant color shift in the, I would say, as footage and photos I shot until I put them side by side. In fact, now let me show you a comparison of a shot, just out of my house, and then these are all the different landscapes that is done from strength 1 to 4 stops. You can see there are some variations. Some are slightly more green and slightly more blue, and then there is one that is a little bit more magenta. They are all very slight shifts compared to the original itself. Now you may be thinking, oh, the shift looks not really that nice, but if I show you one with a variable ND, for this one, this is the one I have. Now, the one with the variable ND actually looks significantly different. In fact, this is one of the biggest strength of single glass NDs like this, because they usually have less issues optically, be it in terms of color tinting or even optical sharpness. That being said, this is a very affordable variable ND. I believe I bought it like maybe $100 last time. So, it is an affordable one, not like the $300 or $500 variable NDs. Now, in terms of sharpness, at least with one piece of glass, I use the 4 stop. There is no difference in sharpness. I zoom in 100%, it looks the same. And when I was trying out the 4 different shots, there is almost no difference in sharpness, at least when it comes to one piece of glass. I didn't try 2, 3, and 4P because there's just a few combinations which I didn't go too deep into, but at least 1 stop, or should I say 1 piece of glass, should have no issues. Now, when it comes to skin tones, they also don't affect the skin tones much. Let me show you, in fact, side by side again. One is shot with no ND and one is shot with 4 stop ND. Just to say, normally when you do photography, you don't really need ND filters like this. You can raise your shutter speed really high, especially with modern mirrorless cameras like this. And then you can actually raise the electronic shutter all the way to, I believe, 32,000. So you probably never need NDs unless you are shooting landscape. And in those cases, 1 to 4 stop may not be enough. You may actually need even up to 10 stops of ND so that you can get the very nice smooth water effect or rain effect, whatever you want. So this is really catered more towards hybrid shooters. Let's talk about what is the pros of magnetic filters. And magnetic filters is very simple because they are easy to attach and remove. So you can just, attach and easily remove. So this is very good for hybrid shooting because variable NDs still have to be removed because their base power starts from 1 normally. They don't go 0. So you still have to screw it out if you are doing photos and then screw it back in when you're doing videos. So if you're a hybrid shooter, I would say as magnetic NDs are actually more, useful than standard screw-on NDs or even variable NDs like this. And there's also another perk is that if you buy other brands of magnetic NDs or magnetic filters like CLES here, you can just stack them up. So, CLES filter here, this is the 4-stop, for example, 4-stop ND. It does mate really nicely. The polarities are fixed, aligned, and they fit nicely into one stack like this. And this is very slim. This looks like the same thickness as a normal filter itself, and then with the mount itself, it looks like about 1.5 times the thickness of a filter. Yet you'll get both 4-stop ND and a black mist filter together. So this is one of the biggest perks of using magnetic filters. You can add, remove really, really easily. So now, why will you buy a magnetic filter with varying stops compared to a variable ND? And there are a few reasons. One I highlighted, normally optically, one single piece of glass is usually better than a variable ND. That's because of how variable ND works. They use 2 polarizing glass and then block light out. So yeah, usually one single ND does optically outperform variable NDs. And then next is also if you are looking to use it on a gimbal, then I would say as magnetic ND is lighter, so it's easier to balance if you are using a very light gimbal compared to using a variable ND, which is actually significantly heavier because of 2 glass and a lot more metal. And then the very last point is what I said earlier. The variable NDs go from 1 stop to maybe 7 stops of ND, but they can't go 0. So 0 will require you to remove the ND from the camera itself, while magnetic NDs allow you to add and remove filters very easily. Of course, the biggest advantage is that all 7 stops of ND are built into the variable ND, even though normally such NDs at 7 stop have a lot of color tint and you may not want to use, for example. But the fact that they are all built into your ND itself, so they are very convenient. Just turn and you get whatever you want. And also, you can easily go from 1 stop to 3 stop to 3.5 stops of ND using a variable ND. And that's something you can't do with a fixed magnetic one. But that's it, right? The fixed one, good thing is it's fixed. So you know that if you put a 2 stop, you get 2 stop. While variable NDs, well, you are never sure whether you get 3 stops or not. Even if there's markings, it's never 100% accurate. Plus, if you accidentally knock into it for whatever reason, you will lose that particular stop of ND and can never get it back, which means you have to do some post-production. So yes, so this is really the biggest difference between a variable ND and the fixed ND, and I would say as which choice you choose is up to you. The magnetic NDs are definitely nice compared to the screw-on ones, because the screw-on ones are just, I'll say, it's troublesome. Now, the very last one I show you is that, magnetic NDs, when I first use, I always afraid, that the NDs actually just drop off the mount itself, but don't worry, I actually tried the ND with like the filter onto a gimbal, as you can see in this shot here. And part of using a gimbal is that you need to tune. It never dropped off before, so don't worry, the magnetic strength is quite good, and stacking even 2 NDs like this, or should I say even 2 magnetic filters like this, do not affect the magnetic strength, and you should be able to use it without fearing that it will drop out of the lens mount when you're doing things like auto tuning or very fast movements. So all in all, I would say as this filter set is actually really nice to use. It's something that you can consider. Now, pricing wise, I'm not too sure. You can go online and check. Based on what I see, I only see mainly Japanese price. I did ask my distributor. In Singapore, it should be about 350 Sing dollars. So it is not the most affordable item, but definitely if you are very serious in the form of shooting videos and you really want to use decent NDs that are single glass like this, I think this is a good set, because yes, you can probably save some money using the screw-on NDs, but yeah, you have to screw it on and off, which is very troublesome. And if you buy usually NDs from 1 stop to 4 stop on screw-on NDs, you will probably pay the same amount. Alternatively, obviously, you can use variable NDs, and if you pay this amount of pricing, you should get a relatively decent one. But that said, normally variable NDs still is never as good as single glass NDs, especially once you reach higher stop of reduction in terms of the exposure itself. So there is a little bit of trade-off you can think of, and most importantly, this is light, small, and go on gimbal easily. Especially if you are a hybrid shooter, I think you appreciate this a little bit more than variable NDs. So that being said, in conclusion, I like this set, and if you are interested, this is something that you can consider. Now, I'd like to thank CLES Distribution for this copy here to let me review, because I actually own quite a bit of NDs, and no, should I say not NDs. Before this, I own quite a little bit of magnetic filters from CLES. I have all the different power of the Black Mist and of course the Dream filters. So I do appreciate that they actually let me try this out, because now I know that I can easily stack this. Because previously, what I have to do is, I have to actually mount my filter in front of my variable NDs or behind them, and it becomes a very, very thick combination. You can see here, if I put it behind like this is one heck of a thick combination, and it actually caused some vignetting in wider lenses. So I'm very happy that they actually provided me this copy to try. Thanks to CLES Distribution, really. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this short little video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.